On a quiet Friday in November, while the American public was distracted by political theater and the rise of stock market bubbles, a tectonic shift occurred in the bedrock of the global economy. It wasn't announced with a press conference. There were no breaking news alerts on your phone. The mainstream media was too busy covering celebrity gossip to notice. But in the quiet, marble-floored rooms where the real power of the world resides, the signal was received loud and clear. China is leaving. For 40 years, the economic relationship between the United States and China defined the global order. We bought their cheap goods. They bought our government debt. It was a symbiotic loop that kept American interest rates low and Chinese factories humming. It was the engine of globalization. But that engine has stalled. Now it is being dismantled. What we are witnessing right now is a silent exodus. It is a systematic, coordinated, and ruthless decoupling of the East from the West. China is dumping U.S. assets. They are hoarding gold at a pace not seen since the Second World War, and they are building a shadow financial system designed to function without a single U.S. dollar. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is visible in the ledger of history, if you know where to look. The data shows that the greatest wealth transfer in human history has begun. And if you are holding U.S. dollars, if your retirement is in U.S. stocks, if your life depends on the stability of the American financial system, you are standing on the tracks of a train that is no longer stopping. Welcome to the Economic Historian. Today we are not just looking at charts, we are looking at the end of an empire. We are going to expose the mechanics of this exodus, why the weaponization of finance forced China's hand, and what happens to your standard of living when the world's reserve currency finally comes home to die. To understand the magnitude of what China is doing, we must first understand the exorbitant privilege they are attacking. For the last 80 years, the United States has held a power that no other empire in history has ever possessed. We control the global ledger. In 1944 at Bretton Woods, the dollar was crowned the king of currencies. It was backed by gold, and the world trusted it. But in 1971, the United States broke that promise. President Nixon severed the link between the dollar and gold. By all laws of economics, the dollar should have collapsed then, but it didn't. Why? Because we made a deal with the devil, or rather, the kingdom. We would protect them militarily, and in exchange they would price every barrel of oil in US dollars. This created the petrodollar. If Japan wanted oil, they needed dollars. If Germany wanted energy, they needed dollars. This created an artificial, never-ending demand for our currency. It allowed America to print money without consequences. We could export our inflation to the rest of the world. But historians will likely look back at February 2022 as the moment the American empire shot itself in the foot. When the conflict in Ukraine began, the United States and its allies froze over $300 billion of Russia's sovereign assets. The message to the rest of the world was chillingly clear. The money you hold in our banks is not yours. It is ours. In Beijing, this was viewed as a declaration of financial war. China holds trillions of dollars in Western assets. They looked at Russia and realized, we are next. So, China began the great unwinding. The data confirms it. China's holdings of US Treasuries have dropped significantly. They are selling, but they aren't just selling. They are buying the one asset that the United States cannot print, cannot freeze, and cannot control: gold. For the last 18 consecutive months, China has been officially adding to its gold reserves. But real analysts know the official numbers are a lie. Export data from Switzerland suggests the real number is likely 10 times the official amount. Why the secrecy? Because in financial warfare, you do not reveal your hand until checkmate. Gold is the only neutral reserve asset. By converting their trade surplus into gold instead of US Treasuries, China is draining liquidity from the American system. They are building a golden exit ramp, and they are not alone. For decades, if you wanted to trade globally, you used the SWIFT system. It is based in Belgium, but effectively controlled by the United States. China knows it cannot rely on SWIFT. So, they built their own, and they are recruiting members. The BRICS alliance was once dismissed as a talk shop, but in 2024 it expanded. Who did they invite? Iran, the UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, and most critically Saudi Arabia. Do you see the pattern? They didn't just invite random countries. They invited the world's gas station. By bringing the major oil producers into an alliance with the major oil consumers like China and India, they have closed the loop. They no longer need the middleman. They no longer need the United States. When Saudi Arabia openly stated they are willing to trade in currencies other than the dollar, it was the geopolitical equivalent of an earthquake. Now, you might be asking, why does this matter to me? Because the standard of living you enjoy today is an illusion subsidized by the dollar's reserve status. Think of the US economy like a house. For 50 years, we have been throwing a party, buying furniture and electronics, but we haven't been paying the bill. Instead, we've been writing iOS and handing them to China. As long as they kept the iOS in a drawer, the party continued. China just opened the drawer. They're handing the iOS back. When China and the world stop buying US debt, the United States has to print the difference. If China won't buy our debt, the Federal Reserve has to buy it. This leads to the Great Flood. Right now, trillions of dollars are held overseas. They will come home. When trillions of dollars flood back into the domestic US economy, chasing the same amount of goods, the result is hyperinflation. We are talking about a structural shift where the cost of imports doubles, then triples. The Walmart economy of cheap goods is over. Its mortgage rates will settle at 10%, maybe 15%. Housing becomes unaffordable for a generation. The middle class is wiped out. This is the mathematical inevitability of a reserve currency dying. It happened to the Romans, it happened to the British, and now the math has come for the dollar. The most dangerous thing you can do right now is assume you have time. The pundits say this will take 20 years. They are falling into the normalcy bias trap. But collapse is rarely linear. It is exponential. It happens gradually, then suddenly. We are currently in the gradually phase. The selling is methodical. The gold buying is quiet. The suddenly phase is coming. It could be triggered by a war in Taiwan or a banking crisis. When that moment comes, the exit door will be the size of a pinhole. If you wait until you see it on the news to react, you are already wiped out. The wealthy have already moved. They are moving into land, into bunkers, into commodities. They see the data. I do not tell you this to scare you. Fear is useless. I tell you this to arm you. China exodus is a judgment on Western decadence. We spent decades outsourcing our industry and financializing our economy. We thought the party would last forever. The dollar is returning to its intrinsic value. And as Voltaire famously said, paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, zero. What do? You become your own central bank. You diversify out of the dollar system. You own things that cannot be printed. Gold, silver, land. Productive skills. You reduce your dependence on debt. The era of the American empire's easy money is ending. A new, multipolar, hard asset world is being born. It will be a chaotic, painful transition. But for those who see it coming, it is also the greatest opportunity of our lifetimes. China has made its move. The board is set. The pieces are moving. The question is, are you still playing by the old rules? I am the economic historian. If this analysis opened your eyes, subscribe and turn on notifications. The mainstream media will not warn you. The government will not save you. It is up to us to read the fine print of history together. But wait. Before you think you can simply hide in cash, you need to understand the final trap that has been set for you. The government knows the collapse is coming. They aren't stupid. They have been simulating this for years. And their solution to the death of the dollar is not to return to gold. Their solution is to capture you in a digital prison. It is called Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. While China is building a gold-backed system, the Federal Reserve is quietly building a digital control grid. They call it FedNow. They call it the digital dollar. They will sell it to you as a convenience. They will say it is faster, safer, and cleaner than cash. But in reality, it is the ultimate weapon of the state. Unlike the cash in your wallet, which gives you privacy and freedom, a digital dollar is programmable. That means the government can track every single cent you spend, but it gets darker because it is programmable. They can control how you spend it. Imagine a world where your money has an expiration date to force you to spend it during a recession. Imagine a world where your savings can be turned off if your carbon footprint is too high or if you donated to the wrong political party. This is not science fiction. It's already happening with the digital yuan in China, and the blueprints are ready in Washington. When the hyperinflation hits, when the old dollar becomes worthless paper, the government will offer you a lifeline. They will offer universal basic income to save the starving masses. But there will be a catch. To get the money, you must sign up for the digital dollar wallet. You must surrender your financial privacy. You must enter the system. This is the great reset of the monetary order. The collapse of the old dollar is not an accident. It's a demolition. And the new building they want to put you in has no exits. This is why owning physical assets, gold, silver, land is your only escape pod. Physical assets cannot be programmed. They cannot be deleted with a keystroke. They exist outside the digital matrix. The war between East and West is not just about who owns the world. It is about who owns you. China wants to own the trade routes. The Western elite want to own your transaction history. We are standing at the crossroads of human freedom. On one side, the collapse of an empire. On the other, the rise of a digital surveillance state. The choices you make in the next 24 months, where you put your money. How you secure your wealth will determine whether you end up as a serf in the new system or a free man who saw it coming. The ledger is closing. The digital gates are opening. Make sure you're on the right side of the wall. I am the economic historian. History shows us the trap. It is up to you to walk around it. Class dismissed.